Yeah, if you're there, well, you got it. You got one of these? They'll give you one of these.
No,
right, you can contact us on the road and.
Yeah, I have another GS in Italy.
Oh, do you? Oh, there you go.
So I ride around there too.
Nice.
All right. So you're live. You can start with your intro or whatever you got.
Okay.
Who the hell are you guys?
Okay. Okay, my name's Nigel Sainsbury. I'm a military diplomat here from New Zealand, in the New Zealand Embassy. And this is a big retirement trip for myself and my buddy here, Alex.
I'm Alex Groves. I'm a U.S. citizen. I actually live and work here in Northern Virginia, in Arlington actually. And I work in at an IT firm here, and my boss was been kind enough to let me take off several months and still have a job when I get back. So that's kind of the key to that situation. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, in fact, just to add that I am actually coming back to the US. I'm getting married. I've met an American lady. I'm getting married next October, so we've got between now and next October to get back.
Or she's got between now and next October to change her mind.
Yeah. So how did this all begin then? So myself and Alex met some time ago when I first arrived in the US. In fact, it was on Christmas Eve, I think it was.
Yeah, it was Christmas Eve.
2012. We got chatting in a pub, realised we had a bit of a common goal of motorcycling, and cut a long story short, we did a big trip back in 2013, Route 66, where we shipped a few mates across from New Zealand, and all 5 of us went across country using Route 66 as a goal. 26 days on the road,
yep,
roughly. And then they sent them off to New Zealand and brought a few guys back, and then we come all the way back. So we went across country and back again.
So you took 26 days to go out there?
No, the whole trip was 26 days.
Yeah, out of back. It was a lot quicker coming back than out. Coming back, we didn't need to follow 66 again. We did on the beginning of it, but it was kind of got repetitive.
Yeah.
So we put the other 2 guys on their merry way back up 66, and we went a different route through Tennessee and all that kind of stuff. So
that was that sort of through the gauntlet down, really. I guess for that we realised that we got on well. We did it was a big trip. We learned a lot of lessons on that trip. And then we did a similar trip back last year. We call it Southern Ride, where we went back down. In fact, it was more of a what was it? What did we call it? It was a Southern Ride.
The Southern route through. I guess we went through Nashville, which is anyone that knows that's been to Nashville knows it's a fun town. So it's probably the second or third time I've been to Nashville. Always a good time. And then we went from there to Memphis, down to New Orleans, and then eventually out to Key West, and then back up to Virginia. So
yeah, that was like 12, 13 days. But we learned a lot from that trip as well.
Yeah.
And then I got a tour I put together. It's called Bikes, Beaches, Blues, and Barbecue.
Yeah, there would have been a similar theme.
I left babes out of there because that would only get everybody into big trouble.
Similar theme. Anyway, so we had those things under our belt, and then, in fact, prior to the southern trip, on May the 16th, 2014, we went down to to Virginia to Natural Bridge on a BMW rally, and that's where we was having a few beers and we exchanging stories, and I had this telling Alex about the plan to ride around Australia, and it was twice I nearly did it. Twice I got trumped and I had to go somewhere else and do something else. And then Alex shared his story about driving around Europe and how he'd been let down. And so we had this stupid idea after a few pints of beers was, well, why don't we do them together, and then connect them together using Asia as the connection. So that's where the idea came about, riding around the world. So you can blame that. Morning or afternoon. And that's really where it all started, really. And we were my assignment finishes here in January, and we were going to pick up the bikes here and ride into Europe, and then go east and south all the way down to New Zealand, finishing around about June, July time next year. And that was on the cards for a good couple of weeks, until our Norwegian friend suggested that we might not want to go to Norway, going through Norway, until April, May time, and then we realised that we were going to be chasing the winter from February down through June, starting in winter and finishing in winter. So we decided to turn the whole thing on its head and ship the bikes to New Zealand and ride back to the US. And that's where and that's really how the genesis of how this thing all started. I think we woke up the following morning, didn't we, and had the conversation over breakfast about
Tim are on the way.
do we really want to do this?
So I'm just going to slide over here.
And yeah, we did, and that's it, and that's we started to. So we had a timeline, which is going to be February 2016, which is still on, which is on track, and what we needed to do then was sort out the detail, and for the last 16 months, I guess, that's exactly what we've been doing.
Yep.
Sorting out the detail.
So what's been the hardest part? You think, what's the hardest aspect of planning a trip like this, or logistically? What's the hardest thing?
I would say the bureaucracy of getting into different countries, not your person, but your actual bike. So United States, Europe, and a lot of other countries allow you to go in and out with your property, cars, bikes, whatever. But a lot of Oceania does not. Asia does not. So getting a carnet de passage, I guess is what it's called, is hard to get for U.S. North American citizens because there's no one here that issues them anymore. The Canadian Automobile Association was the last one to do it, and they stopped last year, March 2014 or March 2015. They stopped issuing them. So in order for us
Is that for lack of demand?
They didn't really say. I asked that question several times. They wouldn't say. They just the FIA just had their meeting in Europe 10 days ago, and they were going to appoint another issuer for North America, but we couldn't wait that long. So apparently there is now an issuer. I'm not sure who it is. They haven't announced it yet. So what we did instead, we talked to some customs officials at New Zealand and some other embassies and said, if we don't have a carnet de passage for the bikes, can we use an ATA carnet? So the difference is an ATA carnet is only supposed to be used for business purposes. So like if you're going to New Zealand at a trade show and you have to bring all your gear with you for the trade show, the ATA carnet covers that. Okay, it's for a business. The customs officials at the different embassies were like, yeah, we kind of understand that you can't get them as a North American citizen, but as long as you have an ATA, you have something saying that you're going to bring this good into our country and leave with the good, as long as we have something we can tear out and keep with us. So that's been a little frustrating trying to get that. To be honest, the ATA carnet was a lot cheaper than the CDP. So for instance, in the CDP, you have to pay, you pay per country that you're going into. And I think if you go into India, it's 200 times the value of the good that you're bringing into the country. Where on the ATA carnet, they don't do it like that. It's one price for everything. So I think from a
deposit, you just give it away.
So it is a deposit. You do get most of it back. But you still have to come up with it. And the way they used to do it in the U.S., you would get a bond. So like I had even for the ATA, I submitted my tax returns for the past 2 years. So someone set the bond for me, an insurance company essentially set the bond for me. So I had to pay, ended up paying $1,200, and then the insurance company is paying the rest. They're insuring that, but if I don't come back with the bike, they're going to charge me full freight on that bike. And their cost. So it's paperwork essentially.
And if you don't have them, then you have to export the bikes and import the bikes into every country. And so
you can still do it.
So you can still do it, but it means for New Zealand, for example, the first country, they have to be exported from here, imported, and when you import them, you have to get a warrant of fitness, you got to register them, and you pay import tax on the value of the bike.
Do you have to give them a window too as to when you're going to do all this?
Not for the, so that's just normal visa stuff.
Okay.
So like for instance, some visas, like our Chinese visa, it's good for 10 years. It's multiple entries in and out of China. Whereas the Tajikistan or Turkmenistan visa, the transit visa, is good for 7 days. If you stay longer than 7 days, you try to get to the border, you're gonna have problems. So there's that. So it doesn't really matter as far as the ATA card, the carding goes. It matters more about visa process.
The individuals.
When you guys do that, do you have to itemize everything on your bike, or is it down to like a certain dollar value? Things below that don't matter.
We have itemized what we've taken, but that was mainly so that we didn't double up on stuff, on tools and equipment and that we were taking.
But we didn't list it
and
on
for
the
insurance, but we didn't list it on the car name.
So they'll take that inventory when you enter in.
Yeah, because when you go in the
By
customs.
value. So what they asked us was, they said, hey, the 2 bikes, what's the value of it? And then they have a range: $0 to $10,000 cost you this much, $10,000 to $25,000 cost you this much. So as long as everything on the 2 bikes was under 10 grand, they really didn't care to itemize it. They didn't need to know. So
Yours being used is less value than his new KLR?
no, mine's
still
a
twice as-
2008, and
still twice as valuable
yeah,
mine.
that was still. They go by Blue Book values, and mine was still worth more than his, even though his is 6 years newer.
But you're less than 10,000.
It was still less than 10,000 because they do look at the Blue Book, and then they ask you how much you want to declare. So you can't be, we couldn't say $2,000 because clearly that's not even near the Blue Book value. So we did the bracket from 0 to 10,000 or 0 to 12,000, whatever that was. They kind of both fit right around that number. So we paid that one price for that.
But so in summary, in answering your question, there's the visas for us as individuals and the visas, although we call them bike because that's what it is, a bike passport.
Yeah,
It's caused us a fair amount of grief. But the internet is your friend.
Yes.
The internet has been absolutely fantastic.
Are you bringing a spot with you?
Sorry?
Spot?
The tracker.
Yes.
Tracker?
A tracker, yeah. In fact, this is the this is the DeLorme tracker. It's not activated, or it has been activated. And in fact, when you go onto the website and have a look, you'll see my last trip to New Zealand is on there. So so this will, and this allows us as well. It uses the Iridium satellite system, so it's not dependent on
This is like the spot, but it's a newer version.
Correct.
Yeah, and we can use it. It works on Bluetooth, so we can send text messages through here. You can't use it for voice, but you can use it for
Text
text.
messages too.
Yeah, you can use it for texting as well.
I think the key difference between that and the spot doesn't necessarily give you an indication whether the satellite got your signal or not. I think
This
there may be
does.
a couple different
This
ones.
does.
That
This
one
does.
is a feedback loop so that you know that the trees or whatever wasn't in the way.
It's a DeLorme. They're based out of Maine. It's called a DeLorme Explorer. So, and we got our own sort of on our website. It's got a link through this, so you can actually track us in real time.
Does it say the name of the pub when you get stopped?
Sorry?
Does it say the name of the pub when you're stopped?
Exactly. Yeah, you'll see. Actually, when I first had it, I had it sort of wearing it. You could see me just walking around DC. It's just, and you can adjust the times that it pings because what it does, it records your position, but it doesn't actually send it. It isn't constantly connecting to the satellite. You've got to download it, the information between waypoints.
So one of the things, just to kind of close the loop on the visa stuff, I think one of the great things about living in DC, you can actually go to the embassies. You can walk around to all the embassies and get the information we need. I can't imagine it would have been a lot harder not living here. Just being here and being able to go downtown, talk to the customs officials face to face, rather than do it on email, I think has actually helped us during the planning process. Living in DC, or I guess if you're in New York City or something where there's a lot of consulates, is really, yes, it's been tough to do the visas and stuff, but living here I think has made it a bit easier than people living in
otherwise.
Harrisburg or something. Yeah.
And there are agencies that can do all the paperwork for you.
There is, and we contacted those agencies. Spent a bit of time with that agency, but it's you look at that. It's not cheap to use those agencies, and literally the embassies that we were going through are literally walking distance. I went to Turkmenistan, Laos, and Nepal, all within 15 minutes walking time. So
It's great living in DC.
So that's what you can do that. But yes, you can use agencies online, and they are good. But we decided that we weren't. We were going to. It's all part of the experience to do. I need the exercise. So the other thing that we've learned about, I guess, from those other trips, like the Route 66 that we did, is how much this thing is going to cost. That was a major consideration, not just the time off work, but how much is it going to cost. And we're budgeting for roughly $200 a day for every day that we're on the road. And that was pretty consistent, even though we were traveling in the US, wasn't it? And we were staying in hotels.
Yeah, we stayed
as well.
in hotels in the US. So we did both trips in the US. We always stayed in a hotel. We didn't camp or anything like that. And we stayed in decent hotels. So even with gas, food, hotels.
Are you playing this time too, or are you going to mix it up with?
We're going to mix up. We got
different
tents.
this time.
Yeah. The other thing that we learned as well is that you can't ride sort of as we were 8 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week. It's just absolutely tiring. And so we're probably, New Zealand will be the shakedown for us. We'll use a combination of motels, friends, I have a lot of friends in New Zealand obviously, and camping. So we'll probably do 3 or 4 tenting, camping thing, and then a hotel, do our washing and things, and stay with friends. So mix it up a bit.